Perfect. So that I can start my online show and
Yeah, those homework. The homework.
if you need, I mean, if you, there is no folder yet. No. Let me check. You Wednesday. This. This. Now you have the folder. And before you can complain, I will make also the one for your next. I'm too good. Then I will make, imagine that you are technically in the group of the morning, so I will also, I'm not talking to anyone in specific. Perfect. Now you have folders for this and next week homework as well. Okay? So, while we are into the server, why not we can start by discovering your next homework so that we will understand which tools we have to learn today. Okay? Ready for this? Because today would be in one of those lessons that I wait an entire semester because to be too cool. Look, your homework 5 would be to make this very simple scene.
Really?
Boom! See this. This object looks a little bit complex at the beginning. Then it sounds like, yes, I'm a graphic designer, so probably I will draw a lot of characters, a lot of things, so this fits the thing. Then you say, but I'm interior, I will never draw an octopus inside my room. And then you will realize that the tools that I will show you today are used in the homework in an easy way, so without dimensions, without a lot of precision, just to make practice with those tools. The only difference between making an octopus and using tools that I will show you today for interior will be only matter of dimensions, matter of precision, but nothing more than this. So this also is a homework that has no tutorial, so it's not explained step by step, again because there are no fixed dimensions to follow, or if you make the head of the octopus slightly different, I mean it will be the same. It is the concept that is behind that must be followed, but at least you will find in the folder called homework 5, you will find additional pictures that will tell you which tools have been used to make certain details. So eyes are made just with spheres, several spheres. And then this is something that will be new today. The hook is made with a tool that we don't know yet, that I was playing, that is called Loft. And not only inside Loft, we will see that there is a tiny menu that is called the deformations. So this is what is used here, Loft plus deformations. Then here we can see that the background is only a sliced tube, so it is tube and it is made with slice from, slice to. The lower part as well as rocks are made with spheres. And you remember we have seen the very first class that if we can scale spheres up and down, they acquire this kind of shape. Here instead we see second element that we need to study today. That is this particular tool that is called lathe. This is a tool that we have to start today. And why not? I will start with this one because lathe is a tool that by using shapes it creates a 3D solid by starting from the shape, selecting a rotation axis, and it spins the shape around the axis in order to create a 3D solid. Believe it or not, you already have seen spheres, cylinders. Maybe you have tried cone, or we have seen tubes. We can also see torus. Every kind of solid object that is round can be technically described as a lathe operation. And I will show you exactly this. Look, to start, we will see lathe first, and then we will see loft afterward. So let's start with this one that is too easy. That is this. First of all, lathe works only if you have a shape selected. So it has to be a drawing. And I will draw this very basic shape to begin with. That is a rectangle. Okay? First, and probably the only tricky part of using lathe is how can we choose which rotation axis we need to select. Because exactly like any tool in 3ds Max, even lathe uses the pivot point of our object to specify where rotation axes are passing through. If I click move, can you see where is the pivot point of my rectangle? It is into the center. If I keep the pivot point there, one of these three axes, X, Y, or Z, passing through the center will be used to rotate my rectangle. Okay? So, look at this example because this will be phenomenal. Look, I've made my rectangle. Lathe is a modifier, so I just select the rectangle, I go to the Modify tab, and I apply lathe. Want to see what the rectangle becomes? Ready, steady, go. Boom. Becomes a cylinder. Because it is a rectangular shape that is spinning around an axis that is also parallel to its sides. When we, and then I will show you a few more examples, but when we use lathe, into lathe modifier, there are a couple of things that we need to learn. There are, first of all, first parameter is called degrees. Degrees by default is 360, so that our solid is a full rotated solid, so it makes a complete round. Let me show you another important thing that is inside lathe. You can notice that there are these three big buttons called simply X, Y, Z. Can you see? What they mean is simply this. You can notice that from my pivot point, can you see I have three axes passing. There are Y, X, or Z. So when I apply lathe, I can also choose that I want to rotate my shape around y-axis, and this happens by default. Or if I click X, the shape will make a turn by using X axis as rotation axis. Or, even if for this doesn't make any sense, I can choose Z axis, and it will make a turn around this vertical axis. Okay? So the only real complex aspect of lathe is not how the modifier works, but what is complex is the preparation that is before. That means how I have to draw my shapes and where I need to move the pivot to obtain the real result that I want. And I will show you another example. Look. Now let me delete the rectangle. Because if I make a circle, can you see where is the pivot of the circle? Yeah. Is into its perfect center. So if I apply lathe right now, you know what I obtain if I use lathe with a circle? A sphere. Look. Poof. No, because it is a circle that spins around its center. Ready for this? Look here. If before using lathe I move the pivot, and we know that we can move the pivot by going to the hierarchy tab, clicking affect pivot only. Look, I will just shift the pivot point outside the circle. Okay? Ready? Because this would be a little bit strong. I want to use my y-axis. Okay? So look, select the circle now. Then I've moved the pivot. I go to the Modify tab. I look for lathe modifier. Ready? Steady? Go! Boom! A donut. Or technically, this is what in 3ds Max is called torus. There is a three-dimensional solid. There is a circle spinning around an external axis. Okay? And we can go with these examples. We can make as many you want. See this one, last one, and then we'll make something a bit more interesting. Look, I draw this line. I want to make a triangle now, but not just whatever triangle. I want that lower edge and the one that is next to it, they must be perfectly horizontal and perfectly vertical. So after clicking with the line first vertex, I just hold shift in my keyboard so that I lock horizontal click and vertical alignment when I draw. But then I release shift and I close my triangle like this. Yes. Okay? Ready for this? Can you see, if I click move, can you see where 3ds Max has placed the pivot point of this triangle? It is somewhere randomly in the center of my shape. There is something that I don't need at all. What I want to do will be this. Look, I want to move the pivot, but this time I don't want to move it outside or somewhere inside. I want that my pivot perfectly matches this vertex position. And we have studied when we have seen mirror that we can also snap the pivot point. So I will left click and I snap. I right click just to check that I'm using snap to the pivot, snap to the vertex, and then I will do this. Poof. So that my pivot point is perfectly snapping this vertex here. Okay? Ready for this? Because this would be unbelievable. Look, I apply lathe, and by default, lathe uses y-axis to rotate the section. So when I apply lathe, the rotation will happen from this axis, and the result of spinning a triangle would be, guess what? A cone. Fantastic, isn't it? But can you see where is my pivot point? My pivot has y-axis. Look, I will do this so that it has to be clear, because I have this new toy and I want to show you. I have that, let's also use same colors. Y-axis is matching this edge of my triangle, so it was making this kind of tall but thin cone. But I can also see that red axis is matching this side of the triangle. Is it true? So look, if I use lathe and I use by default y-axis, the triangle spins like this and it makes this kind of cone. But if I click the button that is X, I will spin same triangle by using these rotation axis, so the result will be this. So what before was height of the cone becomes the radius of this, and vice versa. And I have a cone that would be a lot larger, but also shorter. Okay? And this is the reason why we have these three big buttons, because through the pivot there are always three axes: the Z, the X, and the Y. And we need to choose according to what is the shape that we want to draw. Okay? Let's see a few more examples. At least these two examples. Look, first of all, you will notice one particular thing when I draw shapes that I need to use with lathe. You will notice that I will keep the orientation of my viewport in a very specific way. That is this. If you read here inside your view cube, can you see that in mine there is the word top written, and also the way the top is written is correctly oriented. So top is not rotated like this. Look, it's not tilted, it's not rotated, it's not just randomly oriented and maybe I see back written upside down, because axes are always X, Y, Z, so they are parallel to your grid. What I do and what I suggest you to do is, when you draw profiles that you want to use in combination with lathe, just be sure that you orient your viewport in order to correctly read the word top. In this way, you will avoid billions of possible mistakes or unwanted results, or like you imagine you are expecting certain 3D model and then boom, you get something that is completely different. No, if you draw like this and you imagine that this is the bottom and the height goes along the Y, you will never get mistake. But let's say this. What happens for you if I draw this shape? Look, I make this first segment, okay, then I draw this. Very nice. It's not that nice yet simply because, as you may remember, whenever we use line at the beginning, all our shapes are sharp. What I want to do instead is I want to adjust this shape. I want to make it a little bit better looking. So I will select my shape. I go to the Modify tab. I select vertices and I start by moving these, moving that. Oops, completely forgot. Then check this. I'll make these and these, right click, smooth, or maybe Bezier, yes. This not, this I wanted corner, Bezier corner, why not? Very nice, exactly. And here as well, Bezier corner. So I need a little bit of preparation before using lathe. In here I will make this smooth. In here I will make these smooth as well. Very nice. These, I don't know, Bezier corner. So I'm making a shape that is just a little bit better. Bezier, fantastic. I am almost done. Maybe here instead, just to change, I will use fillet, because if not, I will use always same tools. Yeah, fantastic. Ready for this? At the very beginning, this makes not that much sense. Till I will do this. I move the pivot, and again, I want to snap it so that I will be precise. And I will snap the pivot here. Okay? Then, if I use lathe, see what happens. Ready? Boom! I've made a bell. And also, due to the fact that the pivot is here on the top, if I use rotate, I do this. Bang, 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 bang. Okay, and so, which is the link between the shape you want to draw and lathe? Look, first of all, lathe is used to make round shapes. So whenever you have something round, no, this is like an alarm. Beep, 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 beep. That is like lathe alert. And look, I mean, this was a little bit too. Woo! That's perfect. Look at this shape here. So, I mean, this is not prepared, but let's say you have to prepare a cake for a birthday party, no? And you need these to make a cake. Or even better, let's make this one. How can you model this? By using lathe. The only process you have to follow is this. First, you have to find that in the center here there is the rotation axis, and it will go perpendicular to the shape itself. So it will be something like this. This is the shape, the axis goes perpendicular to its rotation. What you have to think next is this. Which is right profile that you have to draw in order to make your shape? And the workflow will be, you imagine that by using a knife, you cut your shape by using a knife that goes exactly like the axis of your shape goes. If I do this, I will cut this object and its section will be this. Is it true? Technically, I should also see the other side, but I just need to make one half. Perfect, that's it. Because if I draw this and then I move the pivot away so that I leave that gap that is between the blue and the purple object in 3ds Max, I will have, oh look, let's keep these as a reference also. So look, if I draw this shape, perfect, then I will fix it later, but I also move the pivot so that the pivot goes here. Okay, now let's simply make this shape a little bit more organic, because I had these edges that were round, so we use fillet. Fantastic. These edges were round as well. Fantastic. These, we can keep it like this, but it was thinner at the end. It was more like this, very thin. And here, let's keep it like that. It's okay. But you can see now I've drawn the profile and my pivot point has been moved here. Ready for this? Look, I know that by default lathe uses y-axis, so I use these in my case to be faster. Then I click lathe and this section becomes poof. No, you just need to put ingredients, put the oven 160 degrees, 15 minutes, boom, and you have your cake. Okay? Fantastic, isn't it? This is what lathe does. And this is also why you can see in your homework, sorry, if you go to homework 5, side here, can you see why it is written that the head here has been made with lathe? Because from all sides, from all views, this part of the head is made by making one profile that technically looks like the bell example that I've made, and then by using the pivot point to the center, this is lathe. And again, not because in your projects you will make just monsters, octopus and other creatures like that, but look, today the homework is about an octopus, but then if I give you, if I draw this shape, look, these, that at the beginning, again, it will make no sense. But you will discover that this is beautiful. Here I should be exactly. Okay, again, makes no sense right now. I should fix a few things into my vertices. Let's say I will make these smooth. Eh, well, it's okay. Then maybe I should fillet all of these just to make it prettier. A lamp, exactly. If I just move the pivot with precision and I move it here, when I apply lathe, and again, take care, I have to use y-axis, because if I use x-axis, I will get, I don't know what, just something round. But if I use lathe, this would be a lamp, and inside there's also the bulb light that I have made by drawing that smoothed profile. Okay, I mean, just to show that this is not something that is just meant for octopus, but it is something where it is round. Cups, bottles, flower pots, vases, whatever is round is made with lathe. Okay, and this is easier tool that we have to learn today, the one that is called lathe. Because, believe it or not, today we need to just know one additional tool in 3ds Max, the one that is called loft. Loft is a little bit more tricky, is not as easy as lathe, because first of all, loft is not a modifier. So you won't find it by selecting the shape and by going to the Modify tab. Loft is an object in 3ds Max that is inside a categories called compound objects. And for this reason, you will find it first of all in another position, in another location, that is here. Look, you have to go to Create tab. Then, that's weird, you should click your first family of object, the one that is geometries. Okay? And when you click here, can you see this menu that is called Standard Primitives? Yeah. In here, you click it, and then you find compound objects. You will see in a second loft button becoming available. If you look now, you can see that is grayed out because loft as compound objects, even like the name says, won't create anything on its own, but instead it will combine objects that we have to draw before. Okay? And which are these objects that we have to draw? Because we are talking about shapes, compound loft is a compound object that works with shapes only. And we need to draw at least 2 shapes in this, by following this particular workflow. There is one shape must be closed and this is what in the loft object is simply called shape. You will see this in a second. But then we need to draw a path. And the path must be another shape, but only for the path we are 100% free to choose if we want to make a closed or open path. At the beginning, I will make it open so that we can understand exactly what loft does. Let's say this. Okay? So I have 2 shapes. One, I'm keeping it open just to show you the difference. And another one that is closed. Ready? Steady? Go. I will select my path. Okay? Just one shape and not randomly one of these 2, but I will select only the one that is my path. Now, if I go to create geometries, compound objects, you will notice that by having one selected shape only, now loft button is available. Is it true? Fantastic, isn't it? So look what you have to do. With your path selected, now you click loft, and into the loft menu that appears, you click get shape. And after clicking get shape, you click on your closed one. Ready? Can I do it? Are you sure? See? Boom! No. Look at that. See what loft has made. And look, I will right click just to close loft. What loft has done in reality is it has taken the closed shape that is simply called shape, and it has extruded that shape by using the path as direction. Okay? And we will make just billions of examples now. Let's say this. If I also move my loft object, ready for this? I will still see that the path is there because loft, again, is not a modifier. It is a compound object, so it creates a new 3D solid by combining 2 independent shapes. Okay? Want to make another example? Yes. Say this. see this one. I draw now this thing. And then maybe like these, like these, like these, like that. Okay? Then look here. If I draw a path, again, I'm keeping it open not because it has to be open, but just to show you simply the difference between the shape that I call path and the shape that is called shape inside Loft. But what I do is this. I keep my path selected only, then I go to create, geometries, compound, loft. I click get shape and I get the one that is closed, and this is what I will obtain. Beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
No? Imagine now I could do this. Look, 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 because this, I mean, you just give me 3 seconds because this would be fantastic. Now I can make a line starting point, vertex, 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 vertex. Then, like one of your classmates asked, I could use outline. For example, I can extrude these, and I have a basement, you know, like a podium for a statue, for a monument, something like that. But also, if I am right, as I usually am, we have also seen mirror. Is it true?
Yeah.
Ah, wait, because if this was shocking, it would be more shocking once that I select my loft, I click mirror, and I make an instance, and I mirror the Z. So that I make, select the loft, and I mirror it along a Z. Instance. Ready for this? So now I have 2 loft objects, and it will be like that. I just need to put the David on top of these. Boom! I'm done. Okay? You need to know a few more things about loft as well. That is, it is not only you make a path, you make a line, you click, and your life will be perfect. Because there are a few more complex things that we need to know about loft. Like, first of all, loft still, even if it is a 3D object, but the loft still depends on these 2 shapes that you have started from. In which way? It simply means that if I select or the path or the shape and I modify them, if I modify them, I will also modify the result of my loft, like this. Okay? And I can do whatever adjustment I know into my editable splines. So not only moving vertices, but we have seen that we can delete vertices. So if I delete a vertex on the path, boom, I lose that vertex on the loft. If I smooth my vertices, I will smooth loft as well, so that I will get these. Okay? if I divide it and I add more points, whatever happens to the original line will be also appearing into the loft. And not only for the path, but even for the profile. So let me move it here so that we can see it. If I change vertices in my profile, again, these will also change all along the path. So if I make all these corners, let's say, and I use fillet into the original shape, I fillet the shape and I will get round corners into my loft. If I do something like, what else we can do? If I do outline, for example, so that I will have two shapes. Let's see if this works. If I make outline so that I have two shapes, my loft will be a hole. From first to second, I will get my thickness, and then inside I will get a hole. Okay? Just to show you that you can do whatever you know, but the loft will depend from your original shapes. Original shapes, by the way, if you start by making a file that will have multiple loft tools, then all these original shapes will make the file becoming busy of unuseful visible stuff, and you maybe can select them by default, by mistake, and so on and so on. So let's see why it is important to know that you can also hide things in 3ds Max. Because rather than deleting these lines, once that you are happy with the result of your loft, you can simply select your lines from the file, from the Project Explorer, from that part of the menu, and you can simply click this eye symbol next to your lines and poof, it will be just like hiding layers in AutoCAD, no? But instead of hiding an entire layer, you are able to hide individual objects in 3ds Max. But by doing this, you are not losing the line, but most important is you are not losing the loft, but most important, you are not losing the possibility to easily modify your loft. Tell me.
How do I recommend?
This one. So sorry, you can't. If for whatever reason you are not as lucky as me and you have not this beautiful scene explorer, with this, look, go to this area of the menu. Two icons next to mirror, look, this one is called Toggle Scene Explorer, this one. Okay, you click it, I mean mine is already visible, and if yours wasn't visible, poof, it magically appears. Is it true? Yes. Of course it's true. You're welcome. But by hiding those lines, you won't see them into your project, but the moment you realize you need them for whatever reason, because you have to update the shape of your loft, you can just show them, both or just one, and you can keep adjusting your lathe. Okay? Just to know, if you instead choose to delete them is not that the loft will be deleted. Loft will remain, but the only thing that you lose is that now you can't easily adjust your loft as we were able to do before. I mean, you lose the part that makes loft an object that is easy to be modified. That's it. But you won't actually delete the loft as a 3D object. Okay? Let me show you last few things about loft. There are these. Right now, we have seen that we are using always a closed shape for the profile, and that must be closed because exactly like extrude, exactly like lathe, if you don't use a closed shape, your loft will be hollow inside, but hollow without even visible thickness. It will be just like thin paper, okay? So it won't be a true solid object. It will be just slightly wrong. Second of all, we have seen till now only open path, but not because you can use open path only. You can also use closed path, but we need to understand when we need them. For example, a very, very common combination of closed shape and closed path is when you want to make a frame for a painting. Because look, if you draw this kind of thing, let me see, you make 1, 2, 3, so something that, I mean, I could keep the one that I had before, it's okay. Let's say you draw something like that. This time, instead of making an open shape, because my painting, let's say, would be, which kind of painting you want? Circular or rectangular? Rectangular. So I draw this. Okay. This is a closed shape, but it can be used in any case as a path as well, which will be the only difference between these and an open shape. Just that into an open shape you can clearly see from where loft starts till where loft finishes. But if you have a closed path, the only difference that you will notice that the loft starts from the point, it goes along the path, and it finishes exactly where it's starting. So you see just a closed loop, but it works the same. That is, you always start by selecting the shape that is your path. Then you go to create, compound, loft, so same exact operations. Get shape, and you click this. Fantastic! Look at that. And you have this beautiful, just maybe slightly neoclassical, a little bit heavy in terms of decoration, frame, and you can put your painting your inside, boom, and you have the thing that you want. Okay? There is one last thing that I want to show you before showing you deformation. That is, how can we predict the loft solid object dimensions? How can we know the final size? Because if I move my painting away, I will notice something that is, can you see that this is my rectangle? Hmm? But if I move the rectangle on top, so let me move it up so that it is visible. But if I move the rectangle on top of the frame, I can see that loft is half inside my rectangle and half is outside my rectangle. So imagine instead the rectangle was also the size of your painting. If you put the painting right now, it means that you will cover this part of the painting, no? So see why this is happening. This is happening for a very precise reason. That is, this is true, that is my path. But look where is the pivot point of my profile. Ready? Ready? Go. Boom. Can you see that this is in the middle? It is halfway from the left, halfway from the right. So, what we have to know is that even loft has its effect by discovering where the pivot point is placed. And this is why my frame goes up inside, half outside, because the pivot is perfectly in the center. But even here, what I can do is, even for loft, I can first change the pivot of my section here. Let's say I snap it to this precise corner, okay? And if I use lathe now that the pivot is moved there, see now, select the path, select loft, get shape, get these, poof, and now you will notice that if I am right, even if I know that I'm right, but in this way we have that, let me move it down, the loft is perfectly following that rectangle as a path. It's not half in, half out, and so on and so on. Okay? So even loft, believe it or not, requires you, when it is needed, to adjust before using the loft, adjusting where the pivot point of your profile is located. Okay? If not, you will see that moldings, skirtings, crowning, and other decorations like this will never match dimensions and shapes of your rooms, of your podiums, and so on and so on, because they will always go by using the path along the pivot. Okay? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for the feedback. I mean,
But so.
oh, finally some questions.
To confirm, but if you were to change the pivot point after you've done the 3D solid,
I know.
it would change.
No.
No?
The thing is that if I change the pivot point now, I don't change the pivot of the section while I change the pivot of the loft. So what should I do instead is, I have to select the shape always, and I have to move the pivot of the shape. But unfortunately, this takes effect into the loft only before using the loft. If you do it afterward, you don't achieve any effect. But if I do it now, look, you see that I move it away, just away. So I delete my previous loft. So can you see that between the section and the pivot there is like a gap? Okay, so see this. Select the path, create, loft, get shape, get these, boom. And now you see that gap that is constantly going along my path. Okay?
Can you make 2 or more lofts for the same shape?
Sure. You can do this. You can reuse these objects as many times that you want, but at least you need to realize that then if you change one element of your shape of your path, it will affect 2 or more loft objects together. That sometimes is exactly what you need, because especially for decorations like moldings, no, you move one line, and if you're using same profile for skirtings, moldings, crownings, you move one line and all these 3 decorations will be different. So look, let's say you make just a circle, and then you select this rectangle. You select the rectangle, go to loft, get shape, get these. Okay, now you have that this rectangle is managing both loft. So if I select the rectangle and I change its dimensions, these 2 lofts are changing. If I make rounded corners, okay? But if I change the radius of this circle, I will change only that loft. And if I change something in this editable spline, instead it will affect this editable spline only. Or I can do the opposite. I can use one profile in multiple paths, and so on and so on. So all these combinations are all available. Just make them by using a logic process behind. Okay? Sometimes it's needed, sometimes it's not. Loft is also a clear example when you need to understand that sometimes you must use instance, sometimes you must use copy when you make shift and move or shift and rotate. Because if I make this path and then I make a loft, let's say, if I use shift and rotate and I make instance, and I have 1 or 2 loft, but only because I've made instance, if I move this vertex will affect also the previous line that maybe is affecting another loft that I have previously made. So loft is a clear example when sometimes I must use instance, sometimes I need to use copy if I want to do something that will be similar at the beginning but then independent. Okay? Let me show you last thing in loft, and I will keep one of these shapes that is, perfect. But see this. And let me also, just because it makes more sense, let me make these vertices smooth so that the loft will be smooth as well. So look what I do. Select this shape, I go to create, loft, that shape, get this. I mean, it is not that beautiful, honestly, but at least it is something. So what we have now? We have one circle that is using that zigzag thing as a path. Okay? But we can also see that at the beginning and at the end, and technically all along the path, the dimension of the circle is continuously same, remaining the same. Is it true? If I modify something into my circle, so if I modify the radius of the circle, these will affect the entire loft. Okay? So see this. If you have seen into the homework, I showed you that sometimes it is written loft plus deformations. Okay? So see what these deformations are. Or technically, we will see deformation because we will see just one deformation that would be scale. Okay? Ready for this? Because this would be, I mean, if you miss this, you will regret it for the rest of the week. And you will understand why in a second. I select my loft, okay? And with loft selected, I go to the Modify tab. If you see, let me just, if you see inside the loft menu, at the very end, you can notice that there is a option called deformations. Is it true? And look, if you don't see it, I will highlight it. That is here. Can you see it? Yes. Fantastic. So, check this. If you open deformations, you will find these 5 buttons called Scale, Twist, Tweeter, Bevel, Fit. We won't use them all. We will use at least Scale, but I need, into the specific case, to show you what it does and how it works, because especially at the beginning, it is everything less than intuitive. That is this. If you click Scale, in reality, you will open this weird dialog box. Okay? What we find in this Scale dialog box is something that in a second will make a lot more sense. That is this. Look, and let me highlight it so that this will be more clear. In here we have a vertical axis that has a horizontal starting point that is 0, and it goes up now till 100. But if we instead make this menu bigger, or we zoom in, zoom out, I mean, we can go a lot higher, a lot lower. But what is the vertical axis? Vertical axis is scaling. Right now, 100 scaling means 100%. That means if the circle is 10, in reality, the circle will be 10 into the loft. If I change the circle to 20, the circle becomes 20, 50, 50, 10, 10. So the scaling is 100%. The horizontal axis instead, this one, that is weird, but again it goes from 0 to 100 again, has this meaning. The point on the left that is called 0 in reality means starting point of your path. And a point on the right that is called 100, instead, this is the end of your path. Okay? So look why you have a black dot at the beginning and a black dot at the end, and you also have a red line in between. Because right now, if I look at my loft, I can see that at the beginning it has a certain, my circle has a certain scale. All along the path, this scale is constantly maintained, and it finishes with the same dimension that it starts. This is why I have a black dot at the beginning at 100%, a black dot at the end at 100%. Okay? But ready for this? Because this would be beautiful. I mean, when I open scale, I can start by selecting these vertices, and for example, I will drag this vertex down, let's say close to 0, that is this big black line, and when I release my left button, want to see what happens or not?
Yeah.
No. Yes? Sure?
Sure.
Boom!
The
The tentacle, exactly. This is why I was saying if you missed this, you will regret it for the rest of the week. But this is the tentacle, but in reality, what is going on? By dragging that vertex down, what I'm telling 3ds Max is this. Look, at the beginning of the shape, that is at the beginning of the path that is on the left of this diagram, my circle starts with its real dimension. But the more I go to the end of the path, the less is the scale of my section, and it goes down, down, down till it becomes 0, so that it is a pointy final result. Okay? But this is not the only thing that you can do in scale. You are not limited in moving the beginning and the end, because there are a few more options we need to know here. There are these. Look, first of all, can you see this tiny button that looks like a spark?
Yeah.
This is insert point. An insert means that you can add, if you click this button, you can add control points along your scaling function. So that now, the more points you have, the more points you can move up and down to change the way my section is scaled along the path. Okay? And I can go back to my move corner points here, But now I can move these down so that my circle starts like 0% and then it grows, then it shrinks, but then for a certain amount, if this shape is horizontal, it will be continuous, then it may goes up. So the scale can be manipulated, and you can choose that it goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down, it increases, it decreases, increases, decreases, and so on and so on. But last thing that you may notice is that, can you see that my shape is sharp?
Yeah.
And you can also see that my loft will show me these corners when the scale suddenly is going up and then poof, it goes down. But exactly like any editable spline, even the scale spline can be smoothed, and I can select my vertices that are by default always corners, and I can right click and make them Bezier smooth. If I want curves that are continuously going from one side to the other side of the function, or I can choose right click Bezier corner if I want to have half of my function curved in one way and the other half curved into another way, like these. Fantastic, isn't it? No? So let me fix a few of these points to make more sense. Sorry, just one second. But something like these. Now, I was using this for the tentacle. Is it true? But now, can you see that this is the worm? Good. Creepy, isn't it? This also has poison at the end here. An alien. But technically, same exact technique. So using loft and just using not only like the tentacle is one point at the beginning, one point at the end. But if you have more control points, so with this technique, you can do the worm, and you can see that this is just a circular shape that starts growing, then it shrinks, then it grows, then it shrinks, then it grows, then it shrinks. So there are just a lot of control points. There is another picture, there is the hook. Same exact thing. There are no control points, I mean more or less till there. Then it goes thin, then it grows, then super thin, and at the end it is pointy. Okay? So, by using these two tools only, lathe and loft, you can really make this homework, because all other shapes are shapes that are using tools that we have already seen in our previous lessons. And there is something that I want to say. No, yes. One last thing about scale. How to read the scale dialog box that appears. Okay? See this. I will do now something really complex. That is this. I have two circles. But I will select one of these and I will right click, convert to editable spline, because I want you to focus here. I selected these to editable spline because now I can highlight its vertices. So can you see that my circle has, once that is converted to editable spline, can you see it has 1, 2, 3, 4 vertices. Technically it has 5 vertices because at the beginning, and the beginning is the one that is yellow, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and fifth and first are welded together so that they are at the same time beginning and end of my path. Okay? So see this. When I use loft, again, I have to start by selecting the path. And for me, it will be this circle, the one that I've converted into editable spline. And you will understand why in a second. Then I go to create, compound, loft, get shape, and I will get this circle. Okay? So what this circle is doing is, in reality, it is a loft that is starting from my yellow vertex that I had in my editable spline, and then it goes all along the spline and it finishes where it is also starting. But then, see this. In here, now it is weird because this is a closed loop. So what happens if I select the loft and I go to the Modify tab and I click Scale? Scale is still a function that shows me 0, 100 in terms of the path. But I can also see now something that is extremely interesting. That is, can you see along my scale function, can you see these green dashed lines? You know what they are? They are, along the path, the position of my vertices. So, in reality, what I have written here is this. Here, at 0 in my horizontal line, this is my starting vertex. Here, this is my first vertex. Here, this is my second vertex. This is my, oh my god, that's better. This is my third one. And as I said, in reality, there is vertex number 5. That is the end of my path. In here, this is straightened. But in reality, into the path, vertex 1 and vertex 5 are sharing same position because it is a closed loop. But I can also use these green dashed lines to understand better where I need to place my additional vertices when I want to change scaling of my object. So, for example, I can do this. I can add control points here. And what I will do now is I won't select each one and change individually, but what I will do will be this. I select first. With control, I select third, and with control, I will select last. so that I select and skip, select, skip, select, skip. And I will move these three so that they will have same exact value, and see what happens to my beautiful loft. Ready? Steady? Go. Boom. The loft grows, and then exactly after 1/4 of the path goes down, after another quarter goes up, and then goes down. Or I can do even better. Look, I can add more points. If you ask me if I'm precise and I'm catching right in the middle, the answer is no. I'm just using my eyes and my mouse at my best. Okay, but maybe they are, it's okay. But now, see this. I select first, third, fifth, third, this, fifth, this. So again, I'm select, no, this I don't want it. Select and with control. Then I will move all of these down. Ready for this? Fantastic, isn't it? That is too cool to be true. Or, and I have made the point by mistake somewhere, but I don't know where. Here, so here there is an unwanted thing. It's okay, but I can also do this now. I can select these, right click, make them smooth, so that they will be rounded. I can select these and make them smooth, so that even these will be round. If you ask me now why this is flat, honestly, I have no idea, because it shouldn't happen. And this should be as round as the other, but I mean, life is full of surprises, so I don't know. But you can see that from first to second vertex I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and if I check I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and the vertex is here. So I can, instead of getting lost, I can use position of my vertices and those green dashed lines into my scale dialog box to see exactly where I need to place my control points. Okay? For sure? Or okay?
Okay for now, when you get home.
Exactly. I mean, for me it's fine. It's okay for now. Then
I have
yeah,
one thing, but from like
I
half an
think.
hour, from like half an hour ago. But I didn't want to disturb you.
Wait a second. I'm just starting the spray. Okay, I'm back.
So
What is this thing? Ask me so that your classmate can enjoy the thing.
Oh, so when you did the M shape.
Yes, I
And
did
then
an
when
M shape.
The M, the first loft we used
Ah,
was an M.
I don't remember. Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to make a loft, yeah?
Yes.
Comes just great.
You know why?
Yeah, it doesn't get in the right shape.
Ah, look. Let's see. Common. Yes. I know exactly what you have done. You did this. I did an M shape.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Alright. It's not that weird, because in general I just make M because M is for Marco. And then you make another M
Oh yeah.
for masterpiece.
Oh, you see.
This can go wrong in one situation only, that is here. Look, by mistake, you have selected first this, then loft, then get shape, then the path. Are you ready?
But I didn't.
But is this the result that you have?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
This one.
you think you didn't, but you did. So look at me. I mean, I want to prove you that I'm always right. And sometimes this is a very heavy way to carry on. But see this, select the loft and delete it.
Yeah.
You still have big open M and smaller closed M shape. Now be precise. Select your big open M only.
Yeah.
Then go to create, geometry, loft, click, get shape, and click your smaller closed M.
The same. Promise. I know I'm doing coming out. I don't know.
Look what a masterpiece here. This is great. Let me check. No one will see me for a second. Can I?
Yeah, of course.
So you select this horrible thing and function delete. Okay. And this is even easier. Come on. This is simply that. You see what I said? You have a big, beautiful path. And a smaller closed end. I mean,
This was the small one.
exactly, this was just too small. So, if you do this now, you get these, you get that, you get loft, you get shape, you get these.
Yeah. And you said like 5
Boom!
times.
And now see this.
Yeah.
Is this working or not? No. So, why have this dramatic result? Because you probably messed up so much your M shape. So in these cases, just draw it again.
Another one.
And then select these. Select loft. Get shape. Get these.
Finally.
Yeah. Believe it or not, in 3ds Max,
Grazie.
in 3ds Max, if something goes wrong, sometimes it's easier to redo from the beginning what you were trying to do rather than trying to moving one vertex, fixing it, making it smooth, making it straight, making it corner, making it... No. At a certain point, give yourself 10 minutes. If that thing that you're trying to do in 10 minutes doesn't work, delete everything and start all over. Because probably you have made one small mistake, even, of course, accidentally. No? You just moved one vertex. Let's see. You have no idea how many times I see this. Look. I see this. No? It looks like I'm making my hem a little bit better. Okay? Then I select these, select the loft, I get the shape, I get these. No, disaster. And then you try, no, don't fix anything. You delete it, you delete these. That by mistake, I mean, I did it on purpose, of course. But in reality, I thought I was moving it a little bit on the left, but I took wrong axis and instead I pushed down kilometers away a vertex of my shape. And now, believe it or not, if I try to move it up, it will never be perfectly flat again as a M shape. It will be just slightly crooked. So what? Make another M. Boom. These will work. That you just delete it. So I don't spend too much time in fixing things rather than redoing them. But once that I have learned my mistake, I will do that thing into the right way. And not because you are students while I will be able to fix them. This is something that I still do 100% of the time, so when something goes wrong. And also not only in 3ds Max. Whenever I use another software and I do this, maybe, instead of fixing, I do it once, I do it twice, then I realize which should be better way to do it, and I just start all over. But I do it the third time into the right way till I'm satisfied with the result. Other questions? Perfect! So we can also say bye to our online viewers. Remember to like and subscribe and buy the merchandise because this helps the channel.